Hi, my name is Elizabeth Arena, and I am an elementary school art teacher and also a practicing artist, and I dabble in quite a few things. But today I'm going to show you one of the projects I've done with my third grade students, creating rattles. No, that's not a new project, but this is kind of a new approach. So I'm going to show you the way that I did it with them. I'm just going to take a really small piece of clay to start and make sure that you do this first so that your parts dry up. You could always wrap them in newspaper, but I don't have that kind of time in my classroom because we've got about 45 minutes from start to finish. And if we do anything extra, sometimes that last couple of minutes that they spend on this could just be the how shall we say, the chaos that you don't want at the end of class when there's just no time left to clean up. So I'm going to go ahead and create some of these, just little beads. You can roll them between your fingers, or you could roll them on the cloth if you like. I am working on a cloth here, of course, so that doesn't stick. I actually use so I have a huge stack of old handkerchiefs that I use in my class for my kids. They're really fine weave, and the clay works really well on them. It doesn't really pick up too much of a texture. Nothing sticks, and they're nice and big, so everything pretty much stays where it's supposed to. I'll go ahead there, maybe make about 7 or 8. The smaller they are, the more high-pitched a sound that they're going to make. So it's a good idea to make a good variety of them. Maybe somewhere between 8 to 10 is fine. More or less, of course, it will be okay. So that's about good enough. Now I've got a big wad of clay. I'm going to go ahead and push this over to the side. You could use, of course, texture plates that you would use for drawing if you want to get a texture on them, and I have a stack of those in my class that makes things easy. You could use some texture rollers, which you could, of course, get in either a clay supply or also there's a lot of really cool stuff in the cake making sections of arts and crafts stores. So, of course, this is everyone's favorite part, is to just kind of pound on the clay in the beginning. I like to do this. You could use roller and get them perfectly even, but I don't really think that's totally necessary and might add a little bit more than you need to your time. So I usually tell my students make a loose fist. I know this is loud because I'm pounding, so I might stop talking. Go ahead and sort of smack down on the surface of the clay. You can just push with your palm. And of course, as I said, you could use a little roller. I'll use this little guy right here, just to smooth it out a bit. And I want this to be about 1/4 of an inch thick or so. We don't want it too thin so that it's not weak. We also want it to be easy to manage and handle. Go ahead and just lift this, flip it over, do a little more here. And now I'm going to add some textures. So, let's see. I've got some assorted odds and ends. And I have this really cool old, of course it's giant, but you could use some old doilies or something like that. It's just an old tablecloth here. I'm gonna go ahead and roll that onto the surface. That looks really cool, I like that. I'll move it over a little so I get something else here. And let's see. Old doilies are fantastic, of course. So are those texture plates, and the rollers will give you all kinds of interesting things too. I'm rolling really gently. I don't want to lose what I've already got. Kind of avoiding pushing down on those areas that already have something that I like. Okay, that's cool. You could use string, of course, to roll into the surface, which I will do now. Let's see. Let me put some of that up here just so we can see what that looks like. That's a really cool thing you can do. And you can use pretty much anything. This is some weird little old candle holder I found. If you want. Oh, that's making a cool popping sound. You can sort of put that wherever you like. You can use the ends of different tools. And I discovered this one pretty recently. You can use some pasta. Pasta makes an interesting mark. And I always tell my kids, don't push down too hard. You don't want to make a crepe or anything that's too papery. Okay, so this tube right now we're going to use for the next step. This is probably more from, I don't know, it could be, it's not an aluminum foil tube, but about the thickness of the tube you'll get out of an aluminum foil package. You don't want to use a paper towel roll. They're very flimsy and just too big, not the right thickness. This is probably maybe a little over an inch across the top. So I've pre-cut a little paper square here. This is about a little more than 4.5 inches square. And I have my kids use bookbinding needles because they're nice and thick, but they're not particularly pointy. So you're just going to go ahead and push down and cut your square out. And you're going to be left with some extra slab, so don't ball that up. We want to keep it flat. Okay. And make sure you push all the way down to the base and cut out your square. Okay, I'll move this over for a moment. And there we go. Now I have my textured square. Okay, so I'm just gently picking this up. And now I'm going to use my roll and just very gently squeeze together. And it will almost come together. And I'm just going to go ahead and push. Don't worry if you rub some of the texture away, you can always put it back. Okay, so I'm just squeezing, pinching. I want to make sure that's nice and tightly sealed. The clay I'm using is extremely gushy, so I don't need to slip and score. Depending on what you're using, you might have to. But I don't really find a need with this particular batch. I've gone ahead and sealed that up. I still have a nice texture over here on this side. Since I have a seam here, I can go ahead and hide that. Let me use my awesome tablecloth again. You don't want to roll this around because it will kind of come detached from the paper towel roll, or pardon me, the cardboard roll, not the paper towel roll. I'll go ahead and push this in here too, just retouch it a little bit. You could always add some extra little things here if you want to with different tools, make any kind of marks you want. And I kind of like that. I think that's good enough for now. I'm going to go ahead and just hold this very gently. I'm not squeezing on it. And I'm going to twist the roll and pop it off. Okay, there we go. Now I have a nice cylinder. Okay, so next step is to create the base for one of these sides. I'm going to go ahead and take my clay, and I have plenty left over so that I can just position this somewhere. And I'm going to go ahead and trace that circle. And then come back in here and go ahead and push all the way down. Cut it out. Don't worry if it's not exactly perfect or goes a little bit over the line. We're going to smush it out anyway. I'll lift this and then just pull this up. I'll go ahead and flip my piece over. And I'm just going to gently push down on it, and then I'm going to use my thumb and start to smush these two pieces together. Okay, so I want to get this nice and smoothed out. I don't want to see any big chunks. Whatever I see is what I'm going to see when I fire it. So get rid of anything unsightly. Okay. Now, just like I did down here, I don't really want this to be totally smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and use another texture. I'll use my noodle. Go ahead and put some more texture around here just to make it look like a more natural attachment. Okay, that's cool. And I found this, I have no idea what this is. It's some kind of a tool for something. But I like things with blunt round edges at the base that you can use to add some extra embellishments here and there. Make sure you're holding this very gently, don't squeeze. And there we go, that looks pretty good. I'm going to flip my guy over now. I have a little container. And let me go back over here and take my beads. So they've firmed up a little bit even in this short period of time. I'm just going to drop them in there. Like I said, if you feel the need and you have the extra time that you could wrap them in little bits of paper, you could do that too. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the other side. So this piece is plenty thick. I'll put it over here and flip it. I'm going to trace this again. My beads might fall out, so just pop that over. Okay, tracing this, pushing down all the way. And now pop this on the top, and we're going to do the same thing. Just push down. Gently, gently. Okay, there we have it. Okay, so you're going to go ahead, recreate your texture, again, as I will, however you like. And the last thing that is extremely important here is, of course, creating an air vent so this does not explode in the kiln. So I'm going to go ahead, take my tool, and just push all the way down. Okay, make sure it's all the way through so that my air can escape in the kiln. And voila, that is it. I've got a cool textured surface. You could add little bits of extra clay here and there if you want to, but don't go too crazy. And once you've got this, it's ready to set up and dry. I'm going to wait probably a good, I don't know, I like to wait at least a week until I fire. Here we have 3 finished clay rattles. They are done with a similar technique. These 2 are actually exactly the same. First thing I did here was, after it comes out of the bisque firing, they're fired to cone 06. Use some oil pastels, use the side of the crayon, blended, smeared some different colors together that I liked. And after that, did a little wash with some watered down ink, some India ink, and then give them a quick rinse. If your students are doing this, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you give them ink and have them paint it on. Things are going to get very messy very quickly. You might want to just have them bring it to you. You can sort of dunk them or paint them yourself real quickly and then rinse it or dip it into a bucket of water. That will get rid of the excess ink on your oil pastel and just get it nicely embedded into the grooves. This one I approached a little bit differently. I painted first with acrylics and then gave it a wash of a golden ink, and then used the oil pastel on the surface to get that relief look. They all sound a little bit different. My beads are all different sizes. The cavities are probably slightly different shapes, I'm sure. And so you'll get a nice variety of sound from these, which can be pretty cool. One thing that, of course, you want to think about is how you're going to give them a nice little coat. Mine are coated in a Mod Podge spray. You can't, of course, let your kids do that, but they could always paint on the version that comes in a bottle. So that will save you a step in getting them to take it home, get them to do that part. And you'll have a really nice piece with a protective layer on it, so it should be pretty durable. It'll last them a nice long time. And if you want to, you of course do not have to use ink. You could use watercolor on the surface. I've seen people use even colored pencils on the surface. You can really decorate your clay with quite a few media. Imagination is pretty much the limit. But I really like the look of these, and I like the blendability of the oil crayons. So that will do it for this. And I hope to see you again next time. Thanks for watching.